Okay, I'm gonna gavel in. Everybody ready? Sheila, you ready? I'd like to bring this planning board meeting to order, October 20th, 2025. If you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we get started here, just want to introduce our newest addition to the planning board, Natalie Painter, down on the far end. You can't miss her. Welcome, Natalie. We're glad you're here, and you almost got to vote tonight. So you keep coming. We'll slide you in here one day. Thank you. Okay, next item. Approval of tonight's agenda. Anybody have any issue to put in, amend? Unseen. I would make the motion to approve tonight's agenda. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
10 seconds. Thank you. Approval of 2 sets of minutes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, can we have a vote?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. It's okay.
All in favor of that motion and second to approve the agenda?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Thank you.
Been too long. We've missed too many meetings.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Get back on track before it's over. All right. Like I said, we need to approve 2 sets of minutes. One was the June 16th, and the other one was August 18th, 2025 minutes. So if you have any issues with the meeting, with the minutes of those 2 dates, we'll take the June 16th one first. Anybody catch anything, see anything? They looked about as good as you could possibly get.
Yeah, I didn't.
Wes, do we need to do those separately or we'll do them together?
You could do them together if you like.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll-
If there are no, I would suggest if there are amendments to the August 18th minutes to do them separate, but if y'all don't have any amendments to August 18th, you can do them both as presented.
Okay. Well, any issues with the August 18th minutes? Anybody? I didn't see anything once again. I'm amazed how good they are.
Don't be amazed.
Okay, then I will make a motion to approve both sets of minutes to June 16th and the August set, August 18th. So I've made a motion. Can I get a second for that? Ed seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, no one here for public comment. There is no old business, and we'll go straight into new business, which is TCA-25-01. And Wes, I'm going to let you kind of brief us on why we're here tonight concerning that TCA 25-01, if you can.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. You all have in your packets included the staff report, application, proposed language, and statutory language for TCA-25-01, which is a town code amendment request submitted by the town of Southern Shores. There are 2 parts to it. The first one being, if you all will recall, at the May 6, 2025, the town council directed town staff to draft town code amendments to modernize the town code. One of those a ZTA was presented to you all and subsequently adopted by the town council at the September 2nd, 2025 town council meeting. And that was which established requirements for reconsideration of disapproved development and amendment requests. And y'all will probably recall during the discussion, it was mentioned that a bill going through the legislature, HB 926, included language that would prohibit a time limit on submitting reconsideration of disapproved development amendment requests. So we said that if that were to be adopted, that we would take that out. So as a result, we are proposing the first part of this TCA to you all to amend that section of the code, 1-14, and I've got it up on the screens as well, was taking it out entirely, what we had just adopted, what the town council adopted in September, so that there is no longer a prohibition, or there are no longer any requirements for someone to submit an application following denial. There's no time limit, there's no prohibition. The second part to this TCA includes amendments to Town Code Section 6-5, which addresses building permits. You'll see this on page 3 of 5 in the TCA, and there are just a few word changes and two words to be deleted. Starting on page 3, line 30. And this is to bring this section of the code to make it consistent with state statute. Right now, currently, Section 6-5 states that except where exempted by law, any person proposing to erect, construct, or build any building or structure, including walls and fences, so on and so on. Well, the general statutes, they're very specific as to what triggers the requirement for a building permit. And fences does not meet that criteria. And walls, you could say in the statute 160D-1110 that's included in your packets. 160D-1110C1, which basically states that no permit shall be required unless the work involves the addition, repair, replacement of load-bearing structures. Retaining walls, the practice that the town has been following for the past, I'd say, 8 to 10 years is if you have a retaining wall that is 5 feet or 6 feet in height, then that's considered a load-bearing structure. And we do not allow walls to exceed 6 feet in height. So the practice has been if someone proposing a retaining wall on their property from 1 foot high to 4 feet high, there's no building permit required, because we consider that landscaping. We don't consider that load bearing as the statute would require. So if the retaining wall is 5 feet or 6 feet in height, then we would say that that is a load bearing structure and that does require a building permit. So we're trying to bring this section of the code consistent and make it consistent with the statutes. As well as right now, it currently says that a building permit is required for a fence. And per the statutes, we cannot require a building permit for a fence. And they also are regulated by the zoning ordinance, but only for a maximum height of 6 feet. There's no setback for it. So this is also kind of a housekeeping matter in this section for part 2. We believe that these proposed amendments are consistent with the town's currently adopted comprehensive plan, and we recommend approval of this town code amendment to the town council. If y'all have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Would you still require zoning permit for a fence?
We do not. We have not. We have just stated, no, people, it's a common question. It's a common call. Do I need to obtain a permit to install a fence? And the response has been historically not from the town. There's no approval required. The HOAs for the CPOA or SSCA, their architectural review boards may require approval, but we do not. We encourage folks to not put walls or fences on the property line. We encourage folks to do it at least a foot or two off of the property line for maintenance and, eliminating the possibility of an owner saying your fence or your wall is on my property. We encourage that as well, but we don't require a permit for fences.
Wes, explain to me one more time. I've asked you this question and I still can't get it straight in my head. On line 30, where you're saying from 5 feet to 6 feet in height, why not just go with the higher value, the 6 feet in height?
Because, so the maximum height allowed in the zoning ordinance for walls and fences is 6 feet in height.
Right.
And we, the planning department, have considered retaining walls that are less than or equal to 4 feet as landscaping, not load bearing. So what we're trying, with the intent in the proposed language by adding from 5 feet to 6 feet, the intent in line 30 is to say if you are proposing a retaining wall that is 5 feet or 6 feet in height, then it does require a building permit. And we're also clarifying, right now, the code says walls. It doesn't say retaining walls.
Right.
It just says walls. So we're clarifying by proposing to insert the word retaining for retaining walls, inserting from 5 feet to 6 feet in height, and deleting and fences in section 6-5.
So I have a question, that same guideline. So wouldn't you want like 4 foot an inch, 4'1"? Like, wouldn't that also be requiring a permit? Because if it's 4 foot and under, that would be landscaping, but 4 foot and over.
Well, I guess earlier when I said 4 feet and under, it's more accurate to say less than 5 feet. If it were less than 5 feet, it does not require a permit. So if it's up to 4.9 feet, we would consider that landscaping. So I wouldn't say change it to 4.1.
If we hadn't have reversed what we're proposing to reverse tonight on ZTA 2505, this is a town code amendment here. If we were just here simply for the walls and fences, which in essence is why we're here, we're more than likely going to reverse the zoning text amendment, but this is a town code amendment.
Right, so don't consider this as ZTA because neither the proposed amendments by deleting 1-14, that 1-14 is not in the zoning ordinance
Right.
either.
Yeah.
So both sections 1-14 and 6-5, chapter 1 and chapter 6, neither of them are in chapter 36 zoning, so we consider this a TCA. I believe ZTA 2505 included another section that was in the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can bring it up if you like. But,
No, it's not necessary,
but I think that's why we titled ZTA 2505 a ZTA, because it did include an amendment to
Yeah.
ZTA, to the zoning ordinance, chapter 36. But it didn't take long from the planning board, you all discussing and the council adopting the weighting and, the reconsideration of denied approvals. It didn't take long for that to go through the process. That's why I said if and when adopted.
I'd like to make another comment about that 5 to 6 feet thing. I just don't think that's clear.
Gotcha.
Including retaining walls between 4 and 6 feet.
Okay. Between 4 and 6 feet. That makes sense to me.
Okay.
When this was worded, I could see where y'all have questions about it, and we defer to y'all to make it more clear. If y'all can
Okay.
think
Under
of it.
4 is cool, but if it's greater than 4,
So including retaining walls between 5 and 6 feet in height.
or maybe just say over 5 feet. And that way, if there is any, changes in the future, we're not also looking at all the places where we put, oh, we knew that it was limited at 6 feet at this point, but it is
Isn't it
5 and over.
Isn't it 4 and over that?
No, it's 5.
It
We'll
would-
correct it to 5.
It would be-
4.5.
You don't need a permit.
It's landscape.
4.5, you would not need a permit.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you were sticking with 4.
No,
No.
so
That's the
if, so
limit for no permit.
if it's less than or equal to 4.9 feet, it would not require a permit. So if it's,
Anything less than 5.
yeah, so like I said, the intent is to say either 5 feet or 6 feet. And I don't want to say greater than 5 feet because that implies that you might be able to obtain a permit for a 10-foot wall, retaining wall, which we would not allow.
I think what you could say is including retaining walls 5 feet or greater in height up to,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed 6 feet.
Yeah, that kind of makes more sense.
That is clear, yes.
Or maybe not more sense, but it clarifies it a little bit. We all on board with that language?
I like the first part of it, but it's still like, oh, I can do it for 7, no permit.
Yeah. But
One more time so I can get the notes, please.
Including retaining walls 5 feet or greater in height, not to exceed 6 feet in height.
or to a maximum of 6 feet.
Yeah.
All right, so what I have is what Michael, are you suggesting something different as well? I have 5, including retaining walls, 5 feet or greater, 5 feet in height or greater, not to exceed 6 feet in height.
I don't know. Read that one more time, Wes.
Including retaining walls 5 feet in height or greater, not to exceed 6 feet in height.
I think maximum in that context does.
Yeah.
Or,
I think-
or so instead of saying not to exceed 6 feet in height, say not to exceed 6 feet.
Or
maximum.
from 5 feet to a maximum of 6 feet in height. Is that,
Now, does this cover retaining bulkheads on the canals and sound, stuff like that? Can't be over 6 feet?
Well, some of those are.
I would consider, what we're talking here, discussing here, retaining walls, I wouldn't consider bulkheads in the water the same thing.
how about retaining terraced areas?
Well, that would be like a series, you mean where it steps down?
Yeah.
That would be like a series of retaining walls.
My backyard would be a prime example.
Yeah.
So
I'm holding back some earth.
I think, yeah, it's that there's, when you get into it, it has there's the area of repose or what have you. And depending on how wide that terrace is, it may either be considered separate walls or if they're too close together, one
Well, they're-
entire.
They're certainly not structural for the building, but they're structural to keep the earth from going down in my canal.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so the statute refers to load-bearing structure. So
Yeah.
if the building inspector determines it to be a load-bearing structure,
Right.
then that's what would,
Mhm.
5 feet or 6 feet.
Yeah, okay.
I think the awkward part is that the language is intended to say, when does the building permit kick in?
Yeah.
And we're also throwing in, oh, by the way, you can't build one higher than 6. It's a different part of the code
Mhm.
that we're adding in
Yeah.
here. But I understand why you want to make that clear. I know it's limited to 6 feet in another part of the code.
So the question is the 6 feet measured from the ground up?
Yes.
Okay.
So what we have now is including retaining walls from 5 feet to a maximum of 6 feet
In height.
in height.
Yeah. I'm good with that. Everybody? Okay. Any other issues on the front end of this? We're beginning on page 2, section 1 through 14 is pretty much completely taken out through to line 23. So there's nothing in there that has not been taken out from previous.
That's correct. So part 1 of the TCA, it is proposing to delete section 114 in its entirety.
Right. And we are accepting the language in section 66-5 building permit with stated correct, or wouldn't be a correction, but just a restatement.
Yes, sir. Of section 6-5, we're inserting some new language and deleting and fences.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, is this in the residential code? Or does this cover commercial as well?
160D,
6-5 building.
it would include both.
It is.
Yep.
It
It doesn't distinguish residential versus commercial.
In all zoning districts.
No.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Anybody have any more issues with part 2 in what we've just talked about? Anybody want to make a motion?
I would move to approve as directed with the change to Part 2, Section 6-5.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Can I get a second? Anybody?
I'll second.
Jan, seconds?
Yeah.
Any discussion? Seeing all in favor of Michael's motion, Jan second? Say aye. Aye. Opposed, none?
Thank you all for making this clearer.
Well, once bitten, twice shy on the state legislature. Okay. That pretty much gets rid of everything through new business. And I've spoken to Wes a couple times about him giving us an update on the ADU regulations moving through state legislature right now. So Wes, if you can give us that update, and we will address it in planning board member comments.
Yes, sir. So S-495 was a bill titled Regulation of Accessory Dwelling Units. The last action was on March 26th. This is according to online, and it did not make crossover May 8, 2025. Then there was also an identical bill, H-627, Regulation of Accessory Dwelling Units. It also did not make crossover. Last action was May 7, 2025. In both cases, refer to Committee on Rules, Calendar, and Operations, one of the House, one of the Senate. And those bills would have mandated accessory dwelling units and a 10-foot side setback or less, I think is what it said. And Mr. Zahner may have more. I don't know if you've heard anything more about these, but I guess it's possible to revive them, but they haven't been that I could tell.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any momentum on them recently. I think the General Assembly is convening this week, I believe, which, of course, the last time they convened is when they adopted 926.
Right.
So I think this session and the remainders for the rest of the year, they could only take up bills that were in conference, but that's the same thing that happened last year with the 382 with the downzoning provision. They revived a bill that had nothing to do with anything, hazard recovery or downzoning and shove that in. So, yeah, we'll, my other role, we'll continue to monitor that stuff. I mean, I will tell you that the North Carolina chapter of the American Planning Association, which I'm a member of, I believe Wes is a member of as well. I think the perspective is that they're supportive of ADUs and allowing them by right, subject to limitations, on infrastructure, wastewater principally, and water. So I don't know what will happen in next session, but I think they're more broadly supported than a lot of other changes.
There was another bill, I didn't write down the number or print out anything from it, but there was another one that I think it also had the same effect, mandated ADUs, but I think a later version of it increased the population size of the city to like 125,000 or something like that. So once that happened, that version, that draft of that specific bill no longer applied to us, so I didn't track that any longer. But
yeah, that was 765.
Yep.
And then they put provisions also into SB 206, but neither one of them went anywhere.
And then, as you just mentioned, also of note is the downzoning, the requirements. That bill, it did make crossover. Last action was May 8th. That was S
What was the number on that, Wes?
587.
587.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that bill dealt with nonconformities and
Yes.
also repealed the downzoning provision.
Yep.
But our understanding is that the General Assembly is split on it. And one of the reasons why is the property rights groups are suggesting that it's necessary to prohibit localities from, let's say somebody acquires a piece of property that had development rights for years that had just never been exercised. It was zoned commercial or industrial. The municipality catches wind of it, and then they go in and change the zoning to remove the development rights because they hadn't anticipated what was going to happen with that property. Apparently, that happening is somebody's rationale now, not to change that. There was one town, Mills River, that this session was able to get relief so they could adopt their UDO update without written consent. Kind of what we've been advising localities is to work with their local reps to see if they can get a local bill to exempt themselves at this next session. I don't know the appetite for that. So, and
when does this session look like it's going to be over?
it's not. I mean, they're reconvening every month from now until the next session starts in April.
They don't have a budget yet either, do they?
No.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. Yeah, we're advising localities not to even say the word downzoning, but to talk about it within the context of how realistic is it if you're doing a municipal wide zoning change to get the written consent of every property owner, and we're really suggesting talk about it within the terms of written consent and the challenges of that. But I'm surprised they haven't dealt with it, but even like a floodplain ordinance update would potentially result in a downzoning. And now you're prohibited from doing that unless you get the written consent of affected property owners, which isn't likely, So what does that do for, municipalities' compliance with NFIP program stuff? So.
Yeah, and there are several modernizations that, as staff was directed by council to bring modernizations to their attention in the town code. Several items on the list, we can't, our hands are tied due to the downzoning because we probably wouldn't be able to get consent of all owners.
So the all the stuff that has previously been introduced and has not made it to crossover in the ADU realm, have they changed any significant language in those bills moving along? Or is it all, has it been the same thing that we've seen for the last 2.5 years?
I know in the 495, I think the setback requirement started out at like 5 feet.
Mhm.
And I think there was a lot of pushback about that. And
Yeah.
I know that the most recent version had 10 feet or whatever the ordinance required, whichever is less,
Mhm.
up to 10 feet, 10 feet. I know that was one big change. I'm not aware of others. I don't know. But I know that there was other similar language proposed in 2023 and so who knows what'll come next go around.
Yeah, and, I still think that as a town, we've got, even with what's written right now, and we got to just suck it up and go for a 10-foot setback when we've had 15 feet for a
Since
number of
2000.
years. Since 2000. So 25 years, we've had a 15-foot setback because that's the vision that our town created prior to 2020 or 2025. And I don't think it's any mystery that the real estate lobby, Board of Realtors, and the home builders lobby is squeezing pretty hard to help this thing along because obvious reasons, but it's bipartisan as heck in the legislature. I'll read this to you guys, and Charlie Reeves sent the mayor, Wes, and myself this article that he pulled from somewhere, but it was about larger metro areas and how they controlled, growth and the ADUs. But I wrote this back to that group, to Wes, to Charlie, and to Elizabeth. I said, it's an interesting concept, Charlie, for large metro areas. I strongly advocate for and believe in a smaller town's right to remain autonomous in its established zoning regs concerning density, lot size, setbacks, building heights, etc. Unfortunately, both sides of the aisle in our state government are acquiescing to the home builders and real estate lobbies to curb our autonomy under the guise of assisting in affordable housing situations statewide. Putting that situation in a one-size-fits-all box for the entire state is simply wrong. Hopefully the legislature's listening, but by all indications, it is very bipartisan, which is unusual in today's climate.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to believe that it's just on the ADU issue alone, that I don't think on ADUs alone, if we were to allow them, the sky would not fall because they're still expensive to build.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think if on its own, I don't really think the home builders and the real estate organization are pushing for them because it's diminishing returns. There's not a lot of market there for them.
I don't know about that.
Well, I would say if they were significantly interested, then it'd be law already.
Yeah, well, what clues me is that you might be wrong, is that there is such bipartisan support.
Yeah.
For that, and they're getting lobbied by those two groups.
Oh,
pretty
sure.
hard.
Yeah. I mean, I would expect that the dam is going to break on that sooner rather than later, but I think they're also focused on larger objectives than just ADUs.
Well,
So,
it just stinks for small towns like ours that have really tried to keep what we've got here and
Some
not let
open
it slip
space,
away.
an open space
Yeah,
view. I mean, if you
and-
line up all these houses with an ADU in front of them, it'll change. the
Well,
whole
and
concept.
the whole notion that they're for affordable housing is false
Yeah.
for our,
Well, I mean, I think what they would sit here and tell you is that we collectively all have an affordable housing problem. And the percentage of municipalities that are actively working to address that problem locally is minor. And so if the town wants to not be in that position, then the best course would be to act proactively to address it,
to what?
to address housing issues
Mhm.
on their own terms. To say, well, instead of saying, well, we don't want to do that, we don't want to do anything, we don't want to do what we've been doing,
What's the alternative?
that's not, in my opinion, the constructive way to have that conversation. Say, we acknowledge the issue, and this is what we're doing to address it proactively. And at least that way, if more communities are doing that, then there's no need for the state to come in and preempt. But the problem right now is a very small portion of the communities in the state are proactively doing anything. And so all the home builders and the realtors have to say is, well, no one's doing anything. So we have to step in and do something. That's going to carry the day.
Well, it will pass in some form or fashion, and as a town, we're gonna have to adapt. But I think if and when it finally, pushes over the finish line, we kind of need to start addressing some areas where we can have some autonomy, as far as, lobbying hard for building heights or, setbacks, lot size, density, everything that we fight hard for in our town to maintain. And, one avenue that we had looked at previously, a couple of years ago, was to try to employ some way to get that ADU closer to the house, to tie in more as a unit. One over in your neighborhood, Michael, that on Palmetto, I think it looks like it's a whole nother unit sitting out there.
But it doesn't, I mean, I live on that street. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
know.
bother me one bit.
Yeah.
I'd love to build that in my backyard.
Well, yeah, I would too. I don't have the room.
So do you, just a, observation, the two of you, everyone agrees that it's likely coming, whether it's now, whether it's
Yeah.
next year, the year after. So do we sit and just wait for what they are going to allow? Or do we go ahead and say, this is what we think ADU should be like in Southern Shores? And probably they're going to dictate that some of our restrictions aren't valid, that we're not allowed to have some of those, and we may have to remove some of them. But, we can be proactive about that and try to sort of lay the groundwork for our community that this is coming, this is how we hope it comes down. And then we'll have to adjust any kind of regulations that the council might pass. They may not pass it at all anyway. but
Do we
at
have a
least
proactive
framework.
housing committee?
Yeah.
Does Southern Shores have a
A housing
committee? Yeah.
that I'm aware of.
We have the mayor and mayor pro tem are on the Dare County
Oh, yeah, the
Housing Task
Dare
Force.
County, yeah.
But we don't hear. I mean,
We
that was
have-
a specific, much like the committee that Michael's doing for the beautification.
Mhm.
I mean, I think going along with what you're saying, Robert, that, hey, we should have, in place a committee working on alternate housing for our workers. And then the ADU, okay, comes in and, well, we're already working on it. We have this, and this going. So it kind of gives a little more backbone to what we would put in as restrictions if we had a committee working at putting in some type of acceptable housing.
Well, Andy has made comments about, having to do with the primary residence, whether it's color or proximity, that kind of thing.
Right.
Some kind of physical connection. So several people have made comments in this body that, about the kinds of things they would like to see. And so maybe we should, write them down. I don't know if the council has any appetite at this point, but.
Well-
that's neither-
Or should we have a housing committee in Southern Shores?
I think I could be a little value here, just because I'm coming from the Realtor Association for the last 6 years. I was president there, and I was part of some of these legislative talks and lobbying talks. And I think you all are right. And Andy and Michael's conversation is great. And it's just so forward thinking to kind of put yourself in a position for this. And I can touch on what Michael said about the Realtor Association, the Builder Association. I've been part of both of those associations. And, the gain isn't necessarily from these entities. It's really consumer driven. And if you think back, us as realtors, us as home builders, we're getting pushed by the consumer that wants this, and we are advocating on the consumer's behalf. No realtor association lobbies for themselves. We lobby for individual property rights, and we take it from the consumer. So even starting with a survey, and you kind of see what people want, but I think really what I'm seeing in the field from the consumer, from our local buyers and sellers and people that I'm interacting with, is the ADU serves as a purpose that not only affordable housing, but like multi-generational living. As we have our parents retiring, they want to stay with us. We are living our daily lives. It performs that duty. We personally have in-home childcare. So like an au pair, somebody like that, a live-in employee kind of situation because of housing. So that ADU isn't just a rental income or a affordable housing. It really has become a way to optimize your home and hopefully save on some costs that we're seeing in the real world, whether that's, multi-generational living, other things like that. So it really is coming from the consumer, and it's so forward thinking to, start gathering data and really maybe even a task force, as you guys were talking about, to hone in on what Southern Shores vision for an ADU would be.
Well, I don't want to, say that everything that you've said is wrong or right, but I do believe that we spent the May meeting coming up with language that the October meeting is scratching. So, I don't think we want to go down that road again, but I've got a strong suspicion, because I've got a pretty close relative that has written a lot of law in North Carolina that the legislature uses, David Owens. He says it's going to be a big box thing. It's not going to be, they're not going to separate out, little stuff. Maybe population wise, like Wes was saying, there may be some appetite to do that, but he said it's going to be one regulation for the entire state, which kind of stinks, because we're not like the Piedmont or, rural Southern North Carolina. We're our own entity here in, the towns, from Manio to Duck. We roll differently, but it's going to be in one big box. And that big box is probably going to say that, you're going to have a 10-foot setback, and you're going to, rather than 35 or 30% lot coverage, you get 28 or 25. But we won't know until it gets here. I'm not quite sure how we get out in front of something that we don't really understand the finished product.
Part of the issue is, and we seem to be grappling with this, is it something worthwhile doing now proactively, or not doing anything because we assume that the state's going to tell us what we want to do anyway? My opinion is, I think it's worthwhile to do now, and to address it as on our terms.
Well, I don't know what's involved or what the cost would be. It probably wouldn't be that big of a cost. But to do the, a townwide survey again and just kind of lay out where we're at right now as a town with this, our regulations now versus what the state is proposing, the legislature, and, get some input from our citizens.
Just
Yes.
on ADUs.
Affordable housing.
I think we've got a lot of information on affordable housing, but, I think the ADU stuff is,
Well, that,
Think of it this way, Andy, if we had passed something that, there was if you had an accessory dwelling and it, like you said, it could be no greater than 40 feet from the main house and the colors, whatever, that kind of thing. If we had passed something like that, then a few of the ones that have been built in recent years, in the last couple of years, they would be following that code.
Mhm.
And, who knows how long it might hold until the state might come in and say, you can't regulate that. Or maybe that won't be part of what they,
well, that was noticeably absent. And I saw that straight away when we first started talking about the legislator bill, whatever the SB or House was, it did not have proximity to the main dwelling. It had to be attached or any language like that. I saw an opening but it was a slim one. But I don't think that we need to do anything, maybe other than the town write another resolution. I think we've sent 2 already regarding ADUs and how they would affect our, town of Southern Shores, but.
Well, yeah, and I think it's important and most of y'all, I think you all are aware, we already allow accessory structures with living space.
Yeah.
Which pretty much, it's the same thing as accessory dwelling unit.
It is.
On a technicality, it's not considered a dwelling unit. So I think it's not like we'd be starting from scratch, should you all wish to move forward. I think the proximity to the house is one of the main, that's what's been discussed, what this board has discussed before.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be starting from scratch if you all did want to continue this discussion.
do we have any way of reaching out to the council to find out if they have any interest in us doing this? If they don't want to hear from us about this, if they don't want to do anything, then,
I think that, there would be receptive to, at least sticking our toe in. I don't think we need to spend the time and energy to, do what we just got rid of tonight. Because we could put a lot of wishes in there and just get struck down all over again. So, but I think that we need to hear from the town, like Natalie was saying, is that it's consumer driven, and we are all consumers in this town. And I think we need to maybe put a survey out there. We did one here recently, and we got a lot of response. There was 750 responses to the last survey we did townwide.
we got 542 for
Was
the,
it
for the
542?
entry corridor.
Yeah. What was the one before that?
Probably a comp plan.
The comprehensive plan,
What plan?
comprehensive
Yeah,
land use plan.
Yeah, the
comprehensive
land use
plan.
plan, but that was very lengthy. I would think we could get this down to, 5 or 10 pages. The land use plan was long. And just kind of lay out where we're at right now with accessory dwelling units. They're not legal by our town's ordinance, but the only thing that makes them legal or illegal is, are you cooking? Then you can't sleep there. Are you sleeping? Then you can't cook there.
Well, I
That's
think,
with a 220 service stove.
I think
good.
the survey for the comprehensive plan has data about this topic. And there are two, maybe 3 or 4 policies in our current plan that talks about continued the discussion of
Yeah.
perhaps allowing accessory dwelling. It actually uses the term accessory dwelling unit. So a lot of the work, some of the thought, has been put into this already. So, I mean, I think the path is there. I think if you all wanted to go down it, I think.
Well, we're allowing ADUs, we just don't call them that. And that's fine. I think that language should be inclusive and go ahead and basically allow accessory dwelling units. We allow accessory buildings with living, is what it's called. Yeah, it's walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's an ADU. And I don't think anybody sitting up here has any problem with allowing ADUs. I struggled with it for a long time, but it's a losing battle on my end. But anyway, I will maybe set up something with the mayor and maybe Matt, Neil, and just see if they've got any appetite to maybe do a survey that would concern what we're talking about here. But do you all think that it should be strictly ADU or put affordable language in there? What's your take?
I think it should only be on ADUs. I think getting beyond that, I think confuses the question, and you can go down a lot of rabbit holes right now.
Anybody have any words of wisdom on that? Well,
No, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
At least get their take on it before we venture off on it.
yeah, no, we definitely need to have a little bit more indication at the state level. Because once it goes through, they might tweak it some, but they're not gonna just completely change it. And I hate the fact that the state can regulate, our parking requirements, our height, our density, our, setbacks. It just galls the hell out of me, but, who am I? Okay, well, we spent enough time on that. I told you it would go on a little while. Okay, we're at planning board member comments. I think we've talked enough about ADUs. Does anyone have any comments? Robert, start with you. Go this way.
I'll just make a side note. It's not based on the topic that we're talking about. Y'all are mostly aware of a small subdivision that we did on Skyline Road. And there are 4 lots there, and those 4 lots are in an HOA. Created an HOA for a few reasons, but one of them is the restriction that if there are 2 dwelling units on any parcel, only one of them may be rented short-term, and that being 1 week or more. The other one must be owner-occupied, fully occupied, or it must be leased for no less than 12 months. So they could both be rentals, but one's going to be long-term and the other could be a short-term. That was just something that we put in the HOA. That it sounds like a great idea to me town-wide, but I don't think we have we don't have any legitimate way to do that.
I doubt it.
Right. But within an HOA, as long as they don't break that contract like they've talked about.
Mm.
Well, and then the question after that is, how do you uphold it afterwards? I mean, that's what Chickahawk went through with the rental of, their
I don't know
adjunct
what they're
house.
doing. And there was a big thing about it. I mean, I live there, but I have no idea what they're doing about it at this point.
Apparently the county, they allow ADUs, but they're restricted from being used as short-term rentals. And I don't know, I mean, it's worth a conversation with the attorney. but that's how they regulate them.
The county does.
Yeah.
That's right.
Deed restriction?
I don't know,
County's been doing it for
for
several
at least
years.
5-6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ed?
No.
I don't have anything. Jan?
Good.
Michael?
Just update on the entry corridor enhancement committee. We have a meeting tomorrow. We've probably had 2 meetings since our last planning board meeting. But we're just driving to a final document for this first phase. I just sent to the committee this afternoon 4 of those 5 kind of sections, chapters formatted to let everyone review. Probably the longest one I still have to work on and do. But yeah, basically, we hope at a soon council meeting to present kind of our conclusions from this, which is more kind of the information gathering phase. And we reached some conclusions, but we want to present those. And I've suggested it be a joint meeting with planning board and council to do that presentation. But not sure if it'll work out that way from a schedule standpoint. But basically, are our conclusions, does everyone agree with them? Have any other thoughts before we get into the last part, which is phase 2, and it's just the 1 chapter in terms of recommendations and implementation steps. What are our actions that we're recommending? We've kind of batted around some things, but we haven't formulated that yet, and definitely want everyone's buy-in before we kind of proceed to that step.
Good.
Yep.
Natalie, last but not least.
Just glad to be here. Thank you for the appointment. And I'm excited to spend some time on this planning board with you all.
Well, we're excited to have you. So, the deal, we have one more alternate and try to take turns in and out. So Charlie would be the first alternate, but if he, comes in and is a voting member, then you would get the next, go around as far as a voting member. But we encourage the alternates to come to all the meetings. You just never know. And like Wes said, you're certainly welcome to comment on anything. If you're an alternate, you just can't vote. But we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, Wes.
Yes, sir. The next regular meeting is scheduled for November 17th. I don't think we will have anything for you at that meeting. We're still, and I think I've mentioned it a couple times, making some adjustments to an amendment request to Chapter 32 utilities, which would address wastewater treatment plants. So we're probably thinking December for that, but don't have anything for y'all in November at the moment.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, since Tony's not here, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn.
Exactly.
Can I get a second?
Yes, sir.
Everybody seconds. Matt?
Right, planning.
Robert seconds. All in favor of that? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Meeting over. Thank y'all.